Hey, what's up everyone? This is Neil Henderson from prtahoe.com. I'm going to teach you how to shape skis and a ski mold in a CAD program today so that you can build skis and boards at home or for your small brand. And we're going to get right into it today. We're using a program called AutoCAD, and we're going to start just using a line tool to create three different lines. We're going to create our tail, our effective edge, and our tip length. So this is a 175 centimeter ski. The tail length is 18 centimeters, and the nose length is also 18 centimeters, and that gives us an effective edge of 139 centimeters. Then next up, I'm just calculating out the width of the ski. So our nose width is 13.5, and the way that we're working this is we're just kind of creating half of the ski. And so if we divide 13.5 divided by 2, we get 6.75. That's what the first vertical line is. That's kind of half of our nose width. And then now we're working on our tail width. Our tail width is 13 centimeters. So if we cut that in half, we have a 6.5 centimeter line. And now we're working on our waist. And our waist, we can start by putting that right in the middle. So 175 centimeter ski, half of that is 87.5. So I'm putting the X, Y coordinates in of 87.5 and 0. And then we have a 10.8 centimeter waist. So our line length at half of that is going to be 5.4. And there we go. We have the general architecture laid out on our ski. One more step actually before we move on is we actually have to offset our waist width. Most skis have a 6 centimeter setback within the effective edge of the ski. So we're actually going to bring that line back by 6 centimeters, and that is where the waist width is going to sit. And next up, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of adding a few lines offset by half of a centimeter, 5 millimeters out from our effective edge lines. These are actually just going to kind of work to help blend a curve between our side cut radius and our nose. You'll see in a little bit later how these function. We're just using the copy line. These lines are the exact same length as the effective edge width that we just drew a little bit earlier. So next up, we're going to start creating the arcs for the tail. So this is just a start end radius arc. And as I draw it in here, you can see that that looks pretty pointy and it really doesn't quite fit as like a conventional ski shape. Kind of, it would be pretty elf shoe like. So that's not quite going to work out. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to draw in just another, call it relief line or reference line, to help so that I can so I can blend in two arcs. So I think it's 1.5 centimeters in and maybe 1.5 or 2.5 centimeters high. And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to redraw that original arc. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then now I'm going to add a second arc to fill in the rest of that tail section there. So now we're starting to look a little bit kind of like the tail of a ski. You'll notice that between my two arcs is kind of like there's an abrupt corner there. So I'm going to fix that using the fillet tool. And then if you hit radius, you're going to define the radius. I think the first one was a little bit too big here. Yep. So let's undo that. Let's try that again. Let's try that radius. There we go. That seems to really blend in those two radiuses pretty nicely. And it takes me a second here. I got to fumble around to get these radiuses to kind of blend in correctly, or to trim down. But the lengthen tool is a great tool that kind of helps you snap your measurements into place. Usually, I'm having a little bit of a tough time here for a moment, and let's do this one more time. There we go. That works. And then now you can see that that radius is blended. And then let's just take care of the other side here. And I'm just kind of hunting and searching for the point where I can snap that that arc back to. So I don't need that reference line anymore. I can delete that out. But now we've got like a nice fluidly curved tail shape going on there. And for the next portion, we're going to actually start our side cut radius. And for now, we're just going to rough these in. We can define the exact radiuses a little bit later on, but for now we're just going to kind of over exaggerate it so that I know that we have to go back and fix this later on. And if you notice, I've got a tail radius and a nose radius. This is a typical layout for a ski having a dual radius side cut. So you can kind of name the radius that you want in the front of the ski and the radius that you want in the back of the ski. And so now we're actually going to copy over the shape from the tail over to the nose. We'll call this a twin tip ski. And we use the mirror function to kind of like get that to swing over and copy over, and then I'm going to use the move function to snap that into shape. But since the tail is a little narrower than the nose, I actually have to widen that just a little bit. So I just use the lengthen function or the stretch function to get that to meet with the absolute front of the ski, and then adjusted the radius so that it just fluidly kind of like melds together well. And then, so now we got to work on actually defining our side cut radius. So first we're going to work on the nose radius, and in general, you want your nose radius to be a little tighter or a little smaller than your tail radius. So I think we're going to start off at like a 19 or 19.5 meter side cut. And the more that you zoom in, the better you can really define this. If you type in the radius on the properties panel on the left, you can kind of have some funky effects on there. So I just like to kind of drag and drop it right into place as close as I can. Then we're going to do the tail radius here. So typically that is going to be a larger radius, and that larger radius makes it so that when you're turning the ski, it exits the turn easily and doesn't really like overbite or want to continue the turn. And then now I'm actually just doing a little bit of a check to make sure that the blend of my two radiuses actually fit together well. So I'm just going to color this. This is just a reference line that I made. I'm going to color it just so I can see the lines that I made. That looks like it's the tail radius, and then this is the nose radius. And you can see that on the nose, it's actually a little bit overbent. You can see that because the white line that is my actual ski shape sits lower than the red line that is horizontal that I made. So that means that it's actually, the waist is actually not the narrowest point of the ski. So we just, in general, we don't have quite a fluid arc here from front to back. So I actually have to widen up that nose radius just a little bit. And so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to get it so that the radius sits outside of the waist width. I'm making it so that the waist width is the narrowest point of the ski here, and at the same time the radius from the nose blends together really, really closely to the tail. And so now you can see that the red line is sitting lower, so that means that the narrowest point of the ski is right at the waist, and that is what we're going for. And then if I zoom out, we have half of a ski shape. Awesome. So now we're going to work on, actually we're going to use the mirror function to kind of get the second half of the ski up and running. And so the rest of the lines that I have in there for like the tip and tail measurements, I like to leave those in there just as like references, and you can use those to help you draw other lines. And but if you don't want them, then you can always delete them as well. So after we use the mirror function of to get the second half of the ski, I'm actually gonna select the perimeter of the ski shape. And what I'm actually doing here is I'm deselecting any of my reference lines. So now I have the perimeter selected, and I'm going to use the join function. And that creates a continuous path so that the CNC machine knows how to cut this out. And you can see in the properties panel on the left, under miscellaneous, it says closed and yes. That's pretty important. Now we're going to actually do two more shapes. We're going to use the offset function, and it's going to be 0.2 centimeters or 2 millimeters inset from that shape, and that is actually our base shape. The base shape is the overall shape minus your 2 millimeter edges, and then we're going to do another offset shape, 0.635 centimeters, or basically about like 1/3 of an inch inside of that, and that's going to be our core shape. And you can color them any colors that you want that you think are rad so that it looks pretty. And there you have it. That's a general ski right there. But little pro tip here, if you actually if you kind of offset the perimeter of your ski on the tip and the tail so that the wood core doesn't stick out quite so far, it actually makes the ski a little bit more durable. So we're going to, essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to shrink just the overall layout of the tip and the tail so that we use less wood from the core, and we're actually going to use tip fill. That'll be replaced by tip fill, which is going to be a little bit stronger in impacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the offset. I'm going to offset this another 0.635 centimeters, and then we're going to actually use the explode tool so that we have two independent shapes here. And then I'm going to erase what was the original wood core profile on the tip, and then we're going to erase the body of the offset that we just made. This will make more sense in just a moment here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stretch out that arc and drag it over to our original core shape. Pretty easy stuff. And then I'm going to just adjust these arcs so that they blend in just a little bit nicer. There we go. Again, I just use the mirror tool to get those guys to connect. Again, I'm deleting out the old core shape on the nose here. Then I'm simply just going to drag and drop the new point so that it meets up. I use the mirror function to get it to flip around. There we go. And then we're going to go back with this new core shape, and we're going to join all of the pieces together. Click join. And notice on the left there, under miscellaneous, it says that it is not closed. And you can see over here that part of my tail is not selected. So that means that at some point, my dots are not connecting to create a complete path. And then when you send that to the CNC machine, it'll get confused and it might not cut it out correctly. So I'm just going to drag those points off and then kind of reconnect them. And then I'm going to try the join function one more time. On the left, it'll say closed and yes, so that makes it machine ready. So there's our ski shape. Now next, we're going to start building the mold profile. And with the mold profile, it is the easiest way to say it is it has to be a little bit longer than the actual ski. So I'm going to make it an extra 5 centimeters longer on each side. So 175 ski, the total length of the mold will be 185. So that's 5 centimeters on the tail, 5 centimeters on the nose. And with our basic ski shape here, one of the most important measurements is the effective edge length. So in the way skis have classically been designed, not kind of including some of today's technology, is that the effective edge is also the camber length of the ski. So that's where you see that we've got our vertical lines on the tip and the tail. That is going to be our camber area, and then outside of that is going to be where the tip and tail rise actually start. And when I'm essentially getting ready to build the height or the kind of like the body of the bottom, or the kind of like the what would be the female portion of the mold. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the camber section 8 centimeters tall in the middle, and then 7 centimeters tall on the tip and tail. And essentially what that translates into is a mold that has enough material on it so that it won't flex too much and it won't bend too much, so that it will just kind of keep shape, and it will make a strong mold. And so the line that I'm drawing here is kind of a reference line, a couple of reference lines to create the kick up on the tail section here. And so I think that I wanted my tail height to be about 5.5 centimeters here. And keep in mind that this material tends to relax just a little bit, so a 5.5 centimeter tail height might actually reduce down and bend back down into maybe about 4.5 centimeters tall. So I always like to just overbend maybe just a few percent there. And then next up, I'm just going to draw an arc. To complete our tail block. Just like that. The actual radius of it doesn't really matter so much. Just pay more attention to the fact that that it pitches up right from the point that it starts. And then now we're actually going to fill out this tail block so that it goes out the 5 centimeters past the ski that we talked about earlier. And so I lengthened that arc, and then I kind of drew it back so that it would meet with the line. And then I trimmed back that vertical line so that they are both meeting together. Then we're just going to do a quick little fillet cut. I think I did a 3 centimeter here or so, maybe it was a 1.5, and we're going to cut that out. And this is just good so that you don't get any pinch points on your mold. If you have a heat blanket, that fillet will let the heat blanket just kind of lay over rather than getting pinched over. And then we're going to also use that tail block on the nose. So we'll just mirror that right over. And this is pretty much, this is assuming that you are making, that you want the pitch of your nose to be the same as your tail. Again, we're making a pretty basic ski here just to show you how to get it started. And then the last portion is we're just going to connect up the 3 lines, the tip, the waist section, and then the nose of the effective edge with a 3-pointed arc to create our camber section. And so you can see there, we pretty much have our the body of the bottom of our mold made. And now we have to think about how we're going to connect up each mold rib that's made. We cut these out from 3/4 inch MDF. or sometimes 1-inch thick MDF if it's available. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some holes here that are 3/8 of an inch in diameter, and we put threaded rod through them to kind of help assemble our mold ribs. And depending on the length of the ski or the board, we'll do 5 to 7 holes using threaded rod. This threaded rod you can just get right at Home Depot, super easy to get, and it makes it really, really easy to assemble the ribs of your mold. And the placement of these holes, not super crucial. However, I will say that it is sometimes good not to have your holes completely symmetrical, especially if you have a directional ski mold, to help prevent the chances of you accidentally flipping a mold rib, or just so you can tell the direction of the mold. It's not always easy to tell, so you'll at least want to be able to label which side of the mold is the nose and the tail, so that it doesn't get like reversed up. So next up, what I did is I joined the top portion of the mold so that then we can actually do an offset from the shape of the top of our mold. And I think I did a 1-inch, maybe a 2-inch offset. And what that does is that actually kind of creates a proportionally sized curvature copy of the base mold. So it kind of gives us an adjusted size that sits inside of the other mold pretty nicely, and allows for like the thickness of the ski to kind of sit inside that as well. And then we're just going to do some simple vertical lines. I think I did this at 1.5 centimeters in height. These don't matter quite so much, but we're just kind of fill in the male portion of the mold. There we go. And then we're going to fill it in with the same type of holes to assemble these with threaded rod. Again, hole placement, not super important. I do like to have a hole right in the middle. It helps just with some general registration to make sure that your tip and tail molds aren't like offset or sitting kind of like off center. And if you want to get really technical and accurate, you can place these circles exactly where you want them. Again, I'm just kind of going fast so that you can see, and it's not the most crucial measurement out there. And so there we go. Just deleting out a few of these reference lines. We're going to connect up, or we're going to join the shape of that top mold. There we go. So there is your ski and snowboard mold. Again, this is Neil from prtahoe.com. Hit the like and subscribe button for me if you like this type of content. And we'll be sure to come out with more design videos, pro tips, and how-tos on how to build skis and snowboards right at home. Have a good one, guys. Bye.